All right, here we go. You know the deal. January 1st, baby, you got plans. That's right. You had a wild New Year's Eve. 10, 9, 3, 2, 1. That little thing, that horn, it doesn't quite sound like you want it to. Happy New Year. Well, you get to sleep in because it doesn't start till 5 Eastern. Bama, Michigan. And then Texas, Washington. I'm surprised it's not flipped. I'm surprised Alabama, Michigan isn't the later game in prime time. Instead, though, they're at the granddaddy of them all in Southern California, while the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans says hello to Texas and Washington. All right, let me get my guys in. Zack, Cimini, Mike McClure. Let's find out what's what. Bama and Michigan. Michigan is favored. 45.5 is the total. Neither has moved since it's opened, really. I'm surprised. We haven't had really any movement. And I'll be surprised. You know, everybody I've heard on air, on other networks, radio, have all picked Alabama. Zack, Cimini, where are you?
I'm also going to pick Alabama plus the 1.5. First, I think it's just amazing to see them in the playoffs, considering what they had to do to get there. As great as Michigan's undefeated season has been, we know that they've been vulnerable from an offensive standpoint in their final 3 games, and the pressure on them being undefeated is squarely on J.J. McCarthy and Coach Harbaugh. We've seen what's happened in the past 2 playoffs, blown out by Georgia, lost to TCU outright last year, and just with Alabama, if they can just keep it close, I just trust Nick Saban in Alabama to pull it out late if they can keep it close. So give me Alabama plus the 1.5.
All right, Michael, what do you want to do here?
I'm going to be on Michigan here, EK. You know, I've been on Michigan every single segment we've done really for the last several months here. I'm going to continue to be there. I make them the best team in college football, and I think it's for a couple of reasons. I like the way they match up offensive line versus defensive line, and really the other way around. So when I look at the defensive line against Alabama's offensive line, I think it's very clear they're going to be able to get to Milroe. It's just going to come down to what kind of magic can Jalen Milroe execute in this particular spot. I also think Michigan's an incredibly disciplined team. I don't think they're going to rack up a ton of dumb penalties in this game. I think they've got a ton of time to prepare. I think the line is the way it is because of Nick Saban effect. And, you know, you can't really argue with that. He's very good at getting teams prepared for this spot. But I love the strength of this Michigan defensive and offensive line. I love a healthy Blake Corum. I think this sets up as a really nice matchup for them overall. It's going to be a slower, lower scoring game, but I think Michigan ultimately comes out on top here.
I'm going to go Alabama over 21.5. And this is my best play in either game. The one thing I'll say is this. You know, Jalen Milroe is playing at an incredibly high level. And I don't care what he was like 6, 7, 8 weeks ago. Watch the last few weeks. He is just a beast. You know that's a compliment. And here's the other thing. While Michigan's defense is very good, they have not seen anybody like this. Like, it's not like, well, we've seen guys that aren't as good, but they do what he does. They haven't seen anybody like this. The 2 teams they played that were really of any kind of note, I'm talking about Penn State and Ohio State, they had drop-back kids. He is a different kind of player. And I'm not sure they can quickly simulate what he does and simulate practice. I saw him just throw Georgia defenders off when they had him sacked, spin, and make plays. That's what's going to happen here. I don't see Alabama being held in the teens in this game. I just don't. I don't know if they're going to win. I don't know if they're going to lose. I don't know if it's going to go over. I don't know if it's going to go under. But I think Alabama's going to be over 21.5 in this game against Michigan. Michigan going to find out this ain't Iowa showing up on offense. And they're going to have to score if they're going to win. Maybe they're going to win 27-24. I don't know. But I like Alabama to get 22 points or more. All right, next. Texas and Washington. The Huskies, the Longhorns. You know, Texas is the 3 seed, but they are favored. And if you look, you know, every time someone tells you, well, they took the 4 best teams, just keep in mind, Georgia would have been a full touchdown favorite over Washington. Ohio State would have been a full touchdown favorite over Washington. Under no metric is Washington one of the 4 best teams. They are, however, clearly one of the 4 most deserving teams. Then again, so was some school down in Tallahassee, which apparently, I don't know. I guess most deserving didn't apply to them, even though it did apply to the purple and gold in Seattle. Texas favored by 4.5. It's going to 4, 4.5, 4. That total, 64.5, 64, 63.5 now. What do we want to do here? First up, Mike McClure.
I'm laying it with the Texas Longhorns. You know, you mentioned two other schools that you think would be a touchdown favorite against Washington. I think Texas should be a touchdown favorite against Washington. Rewind a week, Oregon was a -10 favorite where that game closed against Washington. I know where there was some speculation on an injury for Penix, and there's obviously a ton of time to prepare for this game. However, Texas, I think, has a distinct advantage on the offensive and defensive line. I think it's going to be a little closer to a home game for them at the Sugar Bowl as well. Obviously, Washington can travel well, and they've shown that they have at times. Texas certainly will, being back in a college football playoff here like this. I think it's all Texas here. I think this line should be minimum 6.5 in this particular matchup.
And again, to be fair, I'm not telling you that's the Erik Kuselias personal line, 1-800-CALL-ERIC or whatever it is. I'm saying that's what the actual look-ahead line when they post, what it would have been. So I'm just reporting there. I'm not analyzing. I'm just telling you, if they had taken Ohio State or Georgia and put them in Texas' spot, those schools would have been even bigger favorites. So whenever someone tells you, well, they took the 4 best teams. No, they didn't. They comboed most deserving and best. So they get an SEC team in, and then a team with an injured quarterback wouldn't be in. Zach, what do you like in this game?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Mike. I'm going to take Texas minus the 4.5, and I think it's going to be a point spread that continues to climb as we get closer to New Year's Day. I think the ceiling is what Mike said, -6, -6.5. Washington, we know about their incredible undefeated season, but they've had so many close calls. Their last 3 wins of the season decided by 3 points or less. And to me, the offense has not been the same. I think that's the biggest thing about bowl season, that extra time to prepare. Texas is going to have that blueprint to attack this Washington defense that has been vulnerable. They were outgained total yards by Oregon State, Washington State, gave up close to 400 yards to the Utah Utes as well. So I think Texas is going to use that extra time. Steve Sarkisian will have that blueprint ready, and Texas is going to roll.
I like the under, just too many on this one. I mean, if I get anything, any kind of weird, you got to kind of click everything in this game to get to 64. I do think Texas' defense is pretty good. I think Washington will move the ball, but I think it's going to take them time. I think they're going to matriculate the ball down the field, and I think Texas will do the same thing. Both teams, will move it, but I don't know if both teams are going to go over the top and just, this is just going to be, craziness. And you're going to kind of need that to get into the mid-60s in the spot. Plus, there's nerves in this. There's nerves early. So I may get a good little start here. All right, odds to win the national championship. You see there. How do you want to play it? Where do you want to go? Zack Cimini, you are first. There are also some combos. There's other ways you look at it. What's the futures market hold for Zack Cimini?
I'm going to go with Texas, a third team there, plus 260. I think with Georgia not being in the college football playoff, it shapes out the best for Texas from a motivational standpoint. We know Steve Sarkisian's past as a former coach of the Washington Huskies, being on Alabama's staff as the offensive coordinator. If they do face Alabama, we've played them the past 2 years, winning this season. So for me, it would be Texas. The outlier is Michigan. If they do beat Alabama, how they beat Alabama, maybe I would change in that scenario. But for now, 3-4 weeks out, I'll go with Texas Longhorns plus 260.
All right, Michael.
I'm staying on Michigan here. I think for me, it comes down to who do you like in the Michigan-Alabama game is the way I would go personally. But I do like Michigan to take care of that game. I think it's a very interesting matchup against Texas potentially or Washington. So it may not be the most value on the board, but it is where I am going here because I'm a little lower on the rest of the teams. Despite personally wanting to see a rematch between Texas and Alabama, of course, I think Michigan's the best team here and they're going to win it.
All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go exacta. I'm going to take Alabama over Texas to win, right? Rematch. I get Alabama to beat Michigan, I get Texas to beat Washington, and I get Alabama to beat Texas. And it's plus 420. So I'll try to win $4.20 for every dollar going Alabama over Texas. That's going to be my play in this